Hello and welcome back to my channel. You joined me finally back at Gridline Racing and finally back in a Sodi kart instead of them bloody biz karts. Now you join me getting into kart 20, which I call this the understeer machine, as we're about to find out very quickly as I now start to adjust my seat and pedals. I would say to my liking, but it got sent out too quickly for me to do it properly, so it was a bit like Waluigi, but not as bad as well, there's a Nottingham video coming up, and I literally could not turn the steering wheel without bashing my elbows into the seat, so that was interesting. But that is for another day as we now head out onto the track. Trying to get a feel for these karts again and get used to the fact there's actually grip on the floor, which is nice. There's also an issue I suffered with wonging the entire session, which I'll get into shortly as we... 7 just stops accelerating for some reason. And we're going to the back of him, and then I get trained by kart 13. Try and go round and follow them, but kart 24 closes the door. I don't think he knew I was there, so fair enough, as we now go through turn 3 and start to go up the incline. Now up here, I was just giving him a little tap up the rear just to let him know I was there, so he could know to get out of my way when possible, because sometimes the blue flags were a bit iffy and just not coming out for some reason. But nevertheless, we're now alongside. He knew I was there and just drove me into a wall. I'm not really sure what that was all about. But regardless, we get past him as we get a better exit through the decline. And we now head on to our battle with kart 7 as we go through turn 2 here. See a little bit of wonging, as I was saying. These karts have fresh tyres, so it was really bringing out the fact the kart is very understeery at the front axle, and I'm very light, so yeah, it doesn't really help. But I wasn't the only one having this issue. There's a few other drivers complaining about it, so at least it's not me just being a petty twat. But nevertheless, we're now going into the last sequence of corners behind kart 7, having to brake a bit early. Not really sure what was going on there, just seemed to let off for some reason as we go into turn 1. He goes a bit wider. He actually gets a better exit than me, but as we go into turn 2, I then have to brake again because he overcooked it slightly. And we go into turn 3. I get a bit of understeer and a bit of oversteer at the same time, just because the kart's not quite warmed up enough yet. As we go through the top section here, as I gain, go a bit wide through there, but still gaining on the kart in front, so not too bad. As we go down the decline, give him a little touch there. Not much I can do because even if you brake, you're still just going to go into him. But nevertheless, he then lets me by on the straight, which is very nice of him, as we come past the start-finish line. And now we move on to the fastest lap of this session, which I want to say a 35.3, but I'm not entirely sure as we go through turns 1 and 2. It doesn't look particularly slow, but I'm just getting on the throttle a bit too late, and I keep forgetting to use boost, because I was used to the biz karts, just touch it once and deploy it. It's quite a hard habit to get out of when you get used to it. But yeah, we soon stopped being a muppet after a while. It probably could have been a low 35, maybe a 34 if I just used boost, but for some reason I just didn't until the last corner. But nevertheless, this brings an end to the last lap here as we now go into session 2. You now rejoin me as we're about to head out for session 2. Now, I was sat a lot further back this session, which proved to be a fatal mistake, as that just increased the wonging. I kind of was trying to fight the oversteer I was getting for how hard I was pushing the last kart by sitting further back on the back axle, but that certainly did not help as we go past kart 24 as he lets us by. Very nice from him as we now go into our first flying lap, where straight away I start wonging. Yay. Nevertheless, we go into turn 2, a bit better through there, but I wasn't being as harsh on the throttle. Turn 3, just go a bit wide, poor entry from me. Going up to the top story now. Pretty decent. We got a lot better towards the last 2 or 3 sessions as I let someone by who was faster than me. I noticed right up my arse. But there you go, there's the first instance of extremely wonging as I wave my hand in anger as we go through turn 1 and 2, as I just start leaning forward to try and get weight over the front axle to stop it wonging. Actually quite effective, surprisingly, so well done my brain for once in its life. Now move on to the fastest lap of this session, which was a 35.1. Again, nothing spectacular, but getting better and getting back into the groove of these karts, which are superior to biz karts, don't at me. But we're now going through the top story again. A lot better through there. I'm taking it a lot tighter now after watching some videos of people who actually take it up there. It's tighter, seems to be faster. So that is my mission, as I managed to hit both walls after finally getting a good run through the top story there. And just kill my chances with 34. And I also braked a bit too soon. I braked before actually going over the line like a pussy. But nevertheless, we're about to chase down kart 18 in front of us. I think it's kart 18. We'll see, because my camera is crap, but nevertheless, I am getting a GoPro eventually. I don't know which one to get, so if you have any ideas, please let me know. Nevertheless, we're now coming down the decline and going through the last sequence of corners as I'm gaining, as they get a poor exit there. We are now gaining, going into turn 1 as I'm on the inside, leaves the door open and just turns in on me. Which seems to be a theme today. I'm not really sure what was going on, but there you are. What can you do? I wasn't too happy with that, but nevertheless, not too cross about it either, as we now come back up to the pits, and that is all she wrote for session 2. You now rejoin me for session 3. We're in the same car as I was for session 2, so I'm sat a little bit further forward, try and get some more weight over the front axle to kind of stop wonging everywhere and wanting to die. Because for some reason this kart just wants to identify as a space hopper and not a go-kart. But this session was, I mean, if I said it was enjoyable, I would be twisting the truth ever so slightly. You'll see in a second the sort of theme this session is about to go into, as we're crossing into turn 1 and the kart just decides to fucking spin itself round. As we now begin to chase down the karts in front of me. These two were slower than me this evening, which inflates my ego. But nevertheless, we're going to look for a way around them if the blue flags don't come out, which we do there. Look around the inside, not enough room, so we back out as we go down the decline. Kart 17 knows I'm there, lets me by. Very nice from them, as we now begin the hunt for the kart in front, as we're boosting down the start-finish straight to go into turn 1 here. My goal here was just to chase this kart down, and so I was getting a really good lap. Bit of racing, might as well, why not? As we go into turn 3, a bit better through there, not tight as it can be, but a little bit of wonging as well, which doesn't help. But nevertheless, we're now on the top story, as I take it once again tighter, a bit too tight, as it leads me to go wide into that last section going into the left-hand corners, but still seems to be good enough to start to catch up to the kart in front, as the kart in front then has a bit of a poor exit out of that last corner as we go into turn 1 once again. Still gaining slowly but surely. I take that turn 2 flat compared to where the kart in front was braking. So it's definitely gaining a lot of time there, as we're now like half a millimetre away from the kart in front. Up here, I'll go a bit on the inside. A little tap there, nothing too major. You'd think that that would be an okay bit of contact given the distance, but oh boy was I wrong. Nevertheless, we're now coming into the last few corners where I have to brake very abruptly due to a poor exit, and then get passed by kart 17. As we then go into the first few corners where I'm then shown the no bumping sign. I didn't realise that I was an international terrorist now, but apparently that little bit of contact was too far, despite being half a millimetre away from the kart in front of me. But nevertheless, I just held back, and we now move on to my fastest lap of this session, which was a 34.9 this time round. Again, nothing spectacular, but certainly more confidence inspiring now I'm back into the 34s. But we now go into the top story. I mean, I take it very nicely this time around, hence why I get a decent time. There's a lot of time just to be made up on that story. I think that's where most people go wrong, as we now go into the last 2 corners, where I hit the wall there, go into the last corner here. I tap the wall on the inside again there, but nevertheless, we are flooring it. And again, I brake a little bit too early before I go over the line again, just because for some reason I was being a pussy. This is where my camera audio actually decides to break, as we move on to this next clip, where I am battling kart 5 in front of me. We are now going into turn 2. I'm having to just stop on the apex because their lines are just a lot slower than mine. Go a bit oversteery wide there, and as we go into the top story, I was not a very happy chap through this part of the race, so I was driving quite angrily, looking for any space I've got, getting cut off there. To be fair, on the individual in front of me. It was not their fault. I was looking for a move that just wasn't there. But that's just kind of what happens when you get a bit cross when you're driving, as the individual in front then doesn't use boost, and I go up the inside and make the move stick. Luckily, that wasn't warranting another board, so we now cut forward to chasing down this individual in front of us as we're going through the top story. Again, a lot of time there. It was actually really nice through there. As we then go down the bottom story. This was actually going to be a very good lap, I think, but we're about to see as the start finish straight. I thought the kart was going to get blue flagged, but apparently not. Yeah, my lap just gets 2 temps taken off it right at the end because I have to stop to not hit him. But we now are chasing down this individual in front of us as we go up the top story. Gain a little bit of time again there, going around down to the decline. So we gain a bit of time again there as we're going into the last couple of corners. A lot of time gained there. I do think I'm actually a lot better through that corner than I seem to think. We'll have a look down the inside. Closes it off quite well as we go into turn 2, thinking that he's going to get blue flagged, but apparently not. As we go into turn 3, he's taking it wide. Kept going wide and allows me to go past, luckily. I'm not sure if he was letting me by, if we just went wrong. But nevertheless, let me get by, so I'm not complaining as we now head back up to the pits, which marks the end of session 3. And you now rejoin me for session 4, different kart again this time, so hopefully a bit less wonging. But nevertheless, just because the tyres are new, it's just bringing out the wonging, so there's not much they can really do unless they change the setups to make the front ends more pointy. But again, it's rental karting, so traditionally they don't do that, as we now just don't have boost for some reason. This time I thought, oh good, what a fantastic start. So kart 5 can just drive past me like I'm not even there. But nevertheless, we're now moving on to a battle in front as the kart man in the green helmet decides to pull out wide. I think it's for a fast lap, to be fair. But we now are in pursuit of the 2 in front of us here as we go up the incline. Just looking to gain some time on the individuals in front. I'm a lot quicker up this top section than most people were tonight. I think I'm losing a lot of time through turn 1 and 2. I'm not sure why I can't seem to get them right today. But nevertheless, we are looking to gain as I follow kart 5 through past him, who lets me by. Look for a bit on the inside. Obviously not going to happen as we then go into turn 2. Yeah, definitely where I'm losing some time of where I was turning in through half of these laps, and then a bit of wonging through turn 3 and going a bit wide does not help. And you now rejoin me for some hot laps and wonging action as we go into turn 1 here. Yeah, just see the wonging. Yeah, I'm not really sure what to say. These karts just wanted to be space hoppers today, like I said earlier. But nevertheless, we are going to be absolutely sending it as much as we can. We won't let this stand in our way, apart from, you know, when we do. But nevertheless, we are through a top story now, nice and neat through there. I believe this was a 34 lap time. It was like 34.8, I think. So a pretty decent lap. Probably could have been a 34.5, like my fastest of the day, if it wasn't for the wonging through 1 and 2. But there you go. Decent lap there as we now head on to another push lap here as we go round. Actually quite nice line through there as we go into turn 2. Nice through there, a lot less wonging. Going through turn 3, a lot there, but not too much to kill the lap time as we go up the incline. Taking it a little bit too wide there as we then turn in. Yeah, just kind of ruined my lap just through up there as we now come down the decline. Nice through there as we come through past Ellis barrier. Very nice through there as well, actually, to be fair. Is caught before smashing into the wall, which is a nice change as we now go into the next lap, where I completely mess up the entry into turn 1 and then going through turn 2, just wonging away like mental as we go into turn 3 now. A bit better through there. It was very temperamental when it wanted to do it and when it didn't. I was struggling to predict this kart, but nevertheless we are now going through the top story once again as we come down the decline, and there's a kart now in front of us that we can possibly chase. So we will now begin to put our head down and finish this flying lap. And now you join me for my fastest lap of the day as we go through turn 1. Quite a lot of wonging through there as we go into turn 2. Get quite a bad entry, which kind of probably cost me getting a 34-2. As we now go on the incline through the top story once again. As again, I think I brake a little bit too early. It's probably cost another couple of attempts. I think just a bit of fine tuning and I can definitely be in the low 34s, maybe even a 33 if I'm lucky. But nevertheless, we go into the last two corners, miss Ellis barrier as we come across the start finish line, and that marks the fastest lap of the day and the end of session 4. And now we're back for session 5 in the understeer machine. Now, if you think I'm overreacting about this kart, the faster drivers that were doing 34.2s could only manage to get a 34.5 out of this. So if I can get anywhere near that, I would have been happy. Luckily I did. I got a 34.6, so not too bad in the end. I did push this thing to an inch of its life with obviously a couple bits of fine tuning needed. But nevertheless, we are about to go into turn 1 here as we have a bit of a train. Between kart 24 and 5. 17 hits in the back of kart 5. No board for him though. Anyway, as we now move up the incline, we actually get past the kart that was stuck behind 5, and 24 comes into the pits, which is holding me and 5 up. We now come across the top section of the track. Get a nice tight line. Kart 5 sees me this time and lets me by instead of driving me into a wall, which is always greatly appreciated. Give him the thumbs up there to show him my approval. We now move on to where we're chasing another kart here once again. Going through the top story, nice and neat through there. I'm not sure if he saw me and decided to let me pass or he went wrong. But yeah, that was appreciated. Thank you, whoever you were. We now move on to the fastest lap of this session as we go into turn 1 here. Take it nice and neat. Having to turn in a little bit earlier just because the front is washing out like catastrophically. You can see there, going a bit wider than I want to, going into turn 3. Again, just washing out a bit wide, just due to the understeer as we go up the incline now. Take it a bit wider just to try and counter the fact the kart does not want to turn. It seems to work quite well as we now go down a decline and through past Ellis barrier, which I do a nice job of avoiding again. Seem to have that corner nailed finally after a long time. Yeah, that marks the end of the 34.6 lap as we now come into another flyer. As we go through turn 1, not very well through there. Turn 2, a lot of wonging again through that corner as we go into turn 3. Just flushing out a little bit, and that marks the end of the session. But I am not coming into the pit lane. I thought this lap was really fast, so I'm going to carry on as we then come through the top story once again. Going down the decline, as we then go towards Ellis barrier. Nice and neat through there. Very nice lap. Unfortunately, it wasn't any faster, although it felt really fast. But nevertheless, it was pretty decent. As we then head up back to the pit lane to mark the end of the Super Pole tonight. Thank you very much for watching. If anyone could tell me which GoPro to buy, or the Insta 360, or what they recommend in mounting and things like that, please let me know in the comments, because I am absolutely clueless. I do not understand what I'm doing. Apart from that, I hope to see you in the next video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share the video if you liked it, because it helps a bunch. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.